Welcome to Digital Hollywood and to our panel, Innovations in Video Advertising, something about expanding brand experiences or some long title. What our panel really means in layman's terms is we're talking about what's happening new in digital video advertising and how we're able to help consumers. So I'm Tracy McCormick. I am the founder of McCormick Media Services. My company is a modern media, sales, and professional skills training firm. So what that means is we train companies and people all over the country on these new modern platforms and how to market them and how to use them for sales purposes. I am joined by a terrific, very esteemed panel. This is always a very exciting panel. We're also filming via live stream today. And a couple of housekeeping items before I introduce our panel. First of all, I handle these panels differently than some of the other ones that you'll see. I really like this to be a conversation, a discussion between the panel and the audience. So what that means is I'm going to ask you guys some questions as well as the panel, and I want you to participate. I encourage you to make this a dialogue, not a monologue, which means there's not going to be any Q&A at the end. You want to ask a question, you should ask a question all the way through. I really encourage challenges. I think you'll get my full support. If you have a different point of view and you want to express it, that's what kind of makes these things fun and interesting. Okay, so again, we're gonna use, I'll be facilitating a conversation today between our panelists and you, and we're gonna show some video examples. I'm gonna start off introducing our panelists. Okay. Let's see, starting to my immediate left is Josh Lamb, and he is the founder and executive producer at a company called Multipop. They're doing some very cool things. Multipop is a platform that was created by Josh. It's the first truly scalable interactive video platform. You have probably heard that before, but I have witnessed their platform, and it really is interactive, and I'm looking forward to using it more myself. But it takes any video from any video player, and they can add in engaging content extensions. I'm going to show you some examples today that he's used for history and A&E and others. And then to Josh's left is Zach Soreff. And Zach is the president of Sawyer Studios. Sawyer Studios is a cutting-edge agency, and they handle some of the most progressive and emerging techniques used to market streaming and on-demand films and TV show. They got a lot of entertainment clients, Universal Pictures, Focus Features, IFC, and a bunch of others. And Zach's experience even includes marketing for set-top box and mobile, as well as retailers, and making the most of real-time data. To Zach's left is Amy Helfand. Amy is the founder and CEO of FamiLeague. FamiLeague is a leading family-focused video network. So they use a community of global lifestyle influencers, professional athletes, and marquee brands to share positive family experiences. So you can imagine all this discussion around brand safety has been good for Amy's business. So she's been in the brand safety business for a long, long time, and we'll get to talk to her more about that. She has a lot of massive global brand clients, Virgin, Amazon, Hallmark, CBS. We're going to show some examples. Oh, shit, sorry. We're going to show some examples of what her company does as well. To Amy's left is Yahav Isaac. He's the EVP of operations at the BGB Group. So Yahav has 17 years of operations and marketing experience, and he specializes in building and leading cross-functional teams. He had been at J. Walter Thompson, a WPP brand, and he established the agency's digital group and headed up digital studio operations and P&L. So, he manages integrations of all the disciplines across the agency. He's also a well sought after speaker. He speaks at Intel and Adobe and at CES. To Yahav's left is Jonas Halprin, and he is the director of monetization at Synacor. Did you come all the way from Where are the rest of them based? Rochester or
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Last year the guy came.
I was there last week.
So
No,
Jonas has
I'm
been.
in the Bay Area. So.
Oh, good, excellent. Jonas has been driving revenue for digital properties for over 15 years. His experience ranges from publishing to marketing, and Cinecor, the company he works for, is a leading technology company that provides very cool end-to-end solutions for internet companies. Isn't your company the one that does this thing, like when you go to HBO Go and you have to kind of authenticate and they say put in the code and all that?
Things, yeah.
Yeah, so they do very cool, the things that are happening in technology with TV. Put in the code, go to your web, sign in here, and now you can see this show from anywhere in the world. His company builds those end-to-end solutions. All right, so we have a terrific panel for you. Victor Harwood, who runs this, always puts together a really diverse group so we can get lots of different points of view. And we're going to start the discussion this morning with the need for innovations in advertising. Why do we need all this? And so, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that consumers hate 30-second ads, right? They hate disruptive ads. Some of the stats are this year 615 million devices use ad blockers. They're trying to let the advertisers know we don't want your ad. And you've read Chrome is announcing now that Google's latest Chrome will come out with an ad blocker built in. So websites that come up will have an ad blocker already built in. So question for my audience first. How many of you guys have ever anyone here downloaded an ad blocker? Okay. Mobile or desktop?
Both.
Both. Tell me why. Somebody tell me why you downloaded an ad blocker. Was it for the ads or what? Yes?
It's not just the ads, it's security too. Yeah.
Security. Mm-hmm. And how about, is it load times or is it making your experience better? Are you happier with this ad blocker?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. So this is a problem for the people selling things to advertisers. So I want to start with Zach. Zach, do you ever run into issues with ad blockers, and how do you avoid it, and what do you see as the future of this technology?
It's definitely an issue that we are concerned about as entertainment advertisers. The thing about ad blockers is that most of them apply to desktop, and most of them don't apply to apps. There's been some clamping down on in-app ad blocking, so there is still a halfway house where it's not blocking every ad. But also a lot of video ads are not affected by ad blockers, nor native ads. And so a lot of our clients anyway are doing video and native ads because they're more engaging. But I think the larger issue here is ads that are annoying. Like, I think there are people that are happy to get a relevant message, especially about a piece of content they might care about, a movie or a TV show they might care about. Nice to see that ad in an engaging native experience. It's the intrusive, interruptive ads, I think, that are the most contentious in the world of ad blocking.
Just last night, at this Digital Hollywood, we've been talking about ads getting better forever. Just last night, my husband and I are watching the baseball playoffs, and I said, I actually think the ads are getting better. Like, I think they are really, even the television ones, they are working harder to make them look more like content marketing pieces. Would you guys agree with that as a panel?
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So, Amy,
Yes.
So as the founder of a video network, is being a branded content anti-ad blocker solution a huge value proposition for you? And are your clients more and more concerned with this technology, or this is something now they know is happening and that you're providing a workaround solution for?
It is. It's a huge value proposition because we specifically target a coveted demo in moms and families. And we have found that our branded content resonates so much more. The research has shown that with branded content, there's brand affinity, recall, intent to purchase a lot more successful than display ads and pre-rolls. So we really build an emotional story and brand experience around the content and influencers who are also very, very trusted to a lot of our community. I think the influencers are really key to the branded content.
Do you guys remember when this ad blocking thing first happened and the IAB said, we're going to sue them? we're going to sue the ad blockers. And then they said, we're going to build an ad blocker to block the ad blocker. And then they're going to build it. It was like this cat and mouse discussion. Do any of you know where the IAB stands on this, or the 4As? Was anybody making a
Sure.
stand about it?
I mean, they're obviously the IAB and ANA, they're very against ad blockers. And the view is it's likened to stealing.
It's likened to stealing. Come
Yeah.
closer to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. You know, you're consuming something that's put out there that you're not paying for, and in exchange, that deal is you're going to view an ad or see an ad.
Oh, so
Now-
they think that consumers have signed up for this notion of, if you're getting the content for free, we get to serve you
True.
the ad.
Now, that said, they also feel, and many in the industry feel like we've already said, that publishers need to clean up their sites, and getting rid of intrusive ads and making the ad experience, you know, is going to help everybody, and is going to help folks not use ad blockers, like, you know, some folks have said.
But how do we get across the safety issue, the privacy issue?
Sure.
It's not a one-to-one conversation. The website host is plugged into ad networks and resale systems, and you have no control of what ends up going down your pipes. And the only point of control, frankly, is the consumer to say, I'm not going to run arbitrary JavaScript on my browser.
Well, and that depends on the publisher. Some publishers have a lot more control and actively take a lot more control over what ads are shown on their sites versus the ones like, you know, say that let's just open the floodgates and whatever runs. So the industry does need to get better at making those ads more relevant and less disruptive.
Right. I think that's the if you're looking at the content of the ads, right? It's all about being relevant to the actual user, regardless, because we do have ways to target specific ad based on demographics, based on time of use, and so forth. So if a publisher or a brand just like, you know, pushing ads for the sake of pushing ads, they're wasting money, and it's harassment, right? Because it's just like, why do I get diapers or a car, you know, ad when it's completely 100% non-relevant to me?
The cost there too, though, I haven't necessarily agreed to be tracked by every property I go consume content from. That targeting comes from linking through these vast databases, again, information being resold outside of my purview that I'm not aware of,
Yep.
to deliver that targeting. And along the way, of course, there's several layers of technology that people have control over. Part of it's malicious, part of it, you know, is ads get pulled from everywhere. You know, these are ad resale systems that track people. Someone can use that for whatever they want from me.
Yeah, but again, look at the exchange, and I'm not justifying the ads, but if you're looking at the exchange that we getting free content, right, and the only way that we can provide, or the brand can provide, or the publisher can provide free content is through the ads.
Yeah, I don't think
So-
consumers are going to get it all their way. You're
Right.
either going to have to give up your data, or you're going to have to pay,
'Cause-
or you're going to have to see an ad. So that content could now not be. There are some companies that say, yeah, you're going to block the ad. You can't see my content anymore,
Right.
but you can pay for it.
Well-
Hold on, let me get to this guy over here. He had a comment.
So you talked about the personalized targeting, and you mentioned watching something on the MLB network earlier. So if I'm watching something on the MLB network or Hulu, I'll see an ad, and it's okay. It takes like 30 seconds, 45 seconds or so. But then I'll see the same ad 4 or 5 times throughout the same
Right,
content.
right. So that's the difference, right? Because then we're talking about the content, and that's a different conversation. There's a conversation about, is it intrusive, and should I get it? No one is complaining about the 30 or 60-second ads on TV, right? We got used to it. It's the way we are. They're completely not relevant to 75 of the population, because they're just like pushing those ads. Hopefully, right, the online ads that you're getting are one, shorter, right? And second, are a little bit more relevant to what you do, hopefully. So now, a lot of the advertising and the brands are failing in that, because either they're not having the right call to action or right message or right content integration, or the publishers just like pushing for the sake of
Well,
pushing.
let's move on to this discussion about. Yes, go ahead.
I have a couple of thoughts. So first of all, I think that implying that somehow an internet consumer owes you something for having viewed content is frankly, it's a little bit insulting. I know I run an ad blocker, and when I encounter a site that's like, hey, you've got to unblock this or don't see our content, I'll go see content somewhere else, right? So I feel like this dialogue needs to evolve a little bit. Secondly, I'm just curious, like as a privacy advocate myself, kind
Anybody else want to respond? Josh?
So I think what you're seeing right now with a lot of the major publishers that we're working with is there is a paradigm shift. Like right now, imagine you're running a business and your P&L keeps shrinking, but the pressure on you to increase revenue keeps going up, right? And imagine you have this thing that's been making you all this money for all this time, but that value keeps going down. So that's what's happening. That's why a lot of these sites are just going over the top with advertising, because they haven't figured out how do we bridge the gap, right? And there is a social contract, I believe, between the consumer and the producer, right? It's not cheap to produce these. It's not cheap to have editorial staffs, right?
And all the jobs that are involved in between, all the people that sell the ads, that make the content, that make all these platforms.
There is a social contract, but what they're coming to, like companies like mine, is trying to find new ways of integrating native advertising. You'd be surprised on these large organizations that didn't have a native ad team until like this year, major companies. And the reason why they're doing that is for that purpose. They understand that it's annoying, right? They understand that you don't want this stuff. They understand that it wants to be targeted, but they don't have solutions yet, and that's what they're really hustling to try to find. So know that. That's why I'm hoping we're gonna do well. But the idea ultimately, and finding new ways of making revenue, right? Like bridging gaps with digital video with commerce, but not the crass way, and balancing user experience. But the main key is native, honestly. I think the programmatic folks are the ones that are gonna get really destroyed in all of this, because there is this pendulum swing where we're just trying to figure out the right balance.
Well, so let's move on to the concept of content marketing. Somebody brought up content before. So for the audience, right? So how many of you guys see a piece of content marketing, which is really an ad disguised as content you might want to, consume? How many of you guys find that useful or beneficial? Content marketing. You see ads like this?
Yeah.
And do you find them useful? Would you prefer to see a makeup tip that really has the brand in it rather than just a brand? Because you're going to get it one way or the other.
Yes. I think it depends if the content's first and the brand is the background, or if it's just the branding experience, right? Some of those things are, I'll sit down and watch them and enjoy them. And I don't mind if there's a brand I want to interact with that's behind it. But if it's just a branding exercise and it's low value and it's wasting my time, then I get negative experience.
It's execution, right? It's the balance. Again, the social contract, people get it, but you have to give value. You can't just take. And unfortunately, most of the current formats are linear thinking in a digital world, that they're force feeding you these old methodology, right? Like you would in linear television, making you watch pre-roll and making you do all these things. And people don't go to digital platforms to do that. That's part of the attraction, is to avoid it. But you have to fill the void in another way.
While we have Josh talking, I'm going to show a couple of examples of things that his company has done. Can we talk about Ancestry.com first, quickly to it, and then I'll show them.
Yeah, so these are demos that were used at Upfront, so I can show these because they're kind of public knowledge now. But the idea here is like I was saying, a lot of big companies are going out natively, and they're really trying to upsell, branded entertainment, brand content marketing, integration points. They're less disruptive and can add more value. We were talking about value of content marketing opportunities versus kind of traditional means. So the idea here was just trying to show Ancestry. Here's a lot of different ways throughout a 22-minute or 44-minute or full-length feature, or even interstitial, of how you can add some KPIs, whether it's calls to action for, in this case, Ancestry.com's to sign up for DNA kits. That's their big thing. But then there's other ways of just getting those additional impressions and engagements so you recall their brand later, right?
When I first saw this ad with this piece of content marketing, I really was not sure if it was a piece of content marketing created for history or created for Ancestry. Clearly, after a few minutes, I'm like, oh, Ancestry paid for this, but they're doing this cool piece of content on history. So let me show you what it looks like. Oops, sorry.
So one of the main keys with all of this is we're trying to not disrupt the experience. We're trying to show the audience that there are elements that they can explore, but it's not meant to be invasive. It's meant to be something fun and engaging and relevant.
So this is clips from this show, The Vikings, but then they have experts in between talking about real Vikings, professors talking about actual names of people that are characters in this show, so it feels like a piece of infotainment a little bit. But now, before you know it, now we've been in here 40 seconds and the Ancestry piece has not even come up yet, right? So they literally have experts talking about these Vikings and giving you kind of like they've done on some other shows where they make it more interesting by showing you kind of the behind the scenes information.
Oh, yeah, I know. You have to restart it. You turned it off, so.
Oh, shoot.
That's one of the things we did was to allow the consumer to turn it off. Yeah, there it is.
So meanwhile, all of these pieces can come up, right?
Yeah, so as you're watching, it's all set based on time. So it's saying, okay, at this moment, I want to add this piece of content. So you can watch it in multiple ways. In this case, I call this the catalog view. So it's a way for you to watch. You can kind of funnel through all the different elements, kind of like Amazon X-Ray, but more dynamic. And then it allows you to see in context when those items come up, oh, there's voting, there's the DNA kit. If you click it again, click that again, then you can kind of cheat. I call this the detailed view, and I can kind of see it all. You click it again, click that, it turns it off, right? And this works on mobile as well. And if you click it one more time, whoops, go through it again, there. One more time, that's it. Now hit play. So when you play it, then the items we'll see in the lower right, the item will come up like individually, and then it grays out after 5 seconds. So it's just kind of like a bug that we're all kind of used to anyway with infographics and things. But the whole idea is, you know, if you click this, we can drive you to additional content. We can pull in Twitter feeds. We can pull in-app purchasing. All these different things that you're kind of wanting to get to anyway, or they're driving you to anyway, all over the screen. Now it's interactive, and hopefully it's less invasive.
I'm going to show you one more for the girls, because that one was for the boys. I would not be interested
So
in that.
that's with an integration with Brightcove, but we can integrate with any player. So this player we're just launching on this week is the new Oath platform. That's the AOL Verizon distribution network. So now we've integrated this into Oath, and we're launching literally like yesterday. I was all stressed out, but getting this live and running, and it's the same concept. The player experience is a little different. The experience, our system works, it's a content authoring system. It's API driven. The UI UX is completely malleable, so if I am like, we're working with Refinery 29, if I'm Refinery 29, I have very specific brand guidelines I want to use. It's all arbitrary. I can do whatever.
So you can buy this stuff, right? I could
Yeah.
click on here, and then I can actually buy this thing right there from the ad. It shows me this piece. I like this one. It's $45.
Yep.
I could click on it.
So click
and I
on
could
that
go
image.
Buy it.
So
right
we've
there.
actually integrated, we're the first to introduce this, but we fully integrated HSN's commerce engine directly into our system. So an author on the publisher end can enter any SKU, and they can pull in any product in real time and deliver it, and full in-app purchasing across any platform. So you literally don't need to do the linking affiliate strategy. It's literally fully purchased within the video, and then you can move on.
So let me move to Jonas and Yahav, and can you give us any examples of work you've seen or hearing about in content marketing that you think are innovative and exemplary? Any insights you can give us about content marketing that has legs, kind of like this one? Other examples?
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's probably not new. Everybody knows
Closer to the
about
mic.
this. You know what Dollar Shave Club did, and they built their brand almost solely on content marketing pieces on YouTube. And what they did is had episodic pieces, so you're kind of folks following the story. And folks that are doing stuff like that will continue to be successful in small, little, 3 or 4 minute pieces.
Anybody else? Any other examples of things you've seen?
Yeah, it's not about a specific example, but when we're looking at those type of solutions, back to the point that that woman said about the pop-ups, it's a different way of engaging with the user. That it's useful for the user. So if you're looking at branding a call to action through utility-based function, either through an app or through a website or through content, then the engagement and the call to action are taking a different format, right? So if you're looking about the airlines, right, they created an app that you can buy tickets on the app and stuff like that, but it didn't really catch up until you can actually have your boarding pass, right? And as soon as they put the boarding pass on the mobile, it became a utility-based app. And then everybody started using the app. Because it wasn't about just the content. And that's a brand that's sitting on your phone all the time, and so you have your United or your Delta, whatever you have. But that's how you convert, and then you immerse your brand into the content, and then you upsells from there versus, and can push content in a different way. Mobile is through notifications, right? Versus the pop-ups that we talked about. So yes, we can turn off notifications, but you need to know how to do it in the settings in order to turn it off. Unless you, so there are different ways of looking at the content.
Thank you. Let's keep moving. So another popular way, aside from just content marketing, is influencers, right? Influencers and social content on social media being done by influencers. So let me ask you a question. This is quick to see where we are in terms of changing of platforms. How many of you guys find yourself consuming short-form content on Facebook? Meaning pieces of content, maybe it's seen by an advertiser, influencer's content on Facebook. And how about on Instagram? So raise your hands higher. Let me see, I want to see how many people are Instagram. So the rest of you are not consuming content on short form content on social media at all.
I think we're too old.
I am probably the oldest person in here, and I consume short form content. Not on Instagram. I'm still more of a Facebook or YouTube user. So,
I'll say it. I do on YouTube. Like I like doing stuff like in my house myself, or at least trying for fun at first. So
but if I wanted to know how to make a new eye makeup, I would follow an influencer on YouTube. Certainly, for sure I would on Facebook. But most of you are not. Are you using any? Are you consuming content somewhere else in short form? Where?
YouTube and LinkedIn. You asked about Facebook.
Okay, and neither of you are Facebook. Okay, so the reason I bring that up is because Amy's company, Family League, uses social media video influencers to create content for brands, right? And you know, influencers some of them have huge followings, right? Some to the tune of 47 million, and some of them are not brand safe, right? The biggest guy was this guy PewDiePie, 47 million, and now he, is a big problem because it's not safe. So Amy, tell us, she has moved a lot. She's finding that more and more people are using Instagram for content. So tell us more about why you made this shift, how it's working, and what you're doing with that.
Sure. I actually wanted to follow your question with how many millennials are in this room?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
That's where
right?
the kids are.
Yeah. So brands are targeting millennials, largest generation in the history of our nation. And in my field, right, we're family focused. 90% of new parents are millennials, and they're giving birth to a digital native generation. So that's where the brands are focused.
Yeah.
And so that is very powerful for us. And we built an entire business on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram now, because our moms are on Facebook, our dads are on YouTube, our kids are on Instagram, and now moms are flocking to Instagram. And Instagram's so important because it's very clean, it's very streamlined. I think people are sick of the politics on Facebook and all the advertising and videos popping up left and right. So everybody's flocking to Instagram, and that has been so powerful for us. Our brands are asking us to create not just visuals, right? Because Instagram really was a visual platform, and now that we're creating series on Instagram, and that platform, in my opinion, last time I was here, you asked me where I would put my $10 on, and I said to you, definitely Instagram, and I triple that. Because we've gotten more requests. We tripled our brand revenue from last year to this year strictly on Instagram. We don't even get requests anymore for Facebook and YouTube. They want everything on Instagram.
Well, just to keep it real with some statistics, however, Facebook, 2 billion users. Instagram, 700 million. Instagram owned by Facebook, so let's get clear about that. Let's see, what was the one we were talking about yesterday? Snapchat, 133 million.
Right.
Instagram Stories today has 200 million users per day, more than Snapchat's entire base.
That's
right. So Instagram is growing, it's the second largest, but Facebook still has 2 billion users, 2 billion. Instagram, 700 million. So I think I'd still put my $20 on there, and it's growing, and it definitely has younger viewers. But Facebook still has everybody, unfortunately. People don't want to admit it. What, honey?
Said it would be a different different story if Facebook was a competitor to Instagram.
It would be a different story,
Since they're
right?
not, I'm sure it'll be 3 billion.
Amy, tell me about this piece we're about to see.
Sure. So with that in mind, one of the things that our brands are always looking for when they're targeting millennial parents, obviously, is they want to take them on a journey across all of the platforms. You're not going to get the same piece of content on YouTube and then the same thing we're going to put on Facebook and Instagram, because it's a different, everybody wants to find something different and fresh. So what we did is we put together a piece where we show you how we take brands across our multiple social platforms, which is a lot more effective than just putting one piece of content across all of them.
So is this
right?
one brand or multiple brands?
We use multiple because it was going to get a little repetitive. So just an example of how we sort of take our community of 22 million across all of our platforms.
Here are your financial planning tips. Something for my college with my children. See, that's fun.
It smells good, my kid loves it, and it's only $5.99.
I do have one question for you though. Is your car outfitted with a breathalyzer test?
That's a good one.
So, wait, where did I go? Zach,
Yes.
are you seeing any trends in video that include influencers, or do you think that recent incidents with this PewDiePie guy and this making these guys now not seem to be so brand safe? And it's my understanding that influencers care way more about their own personal brands than the brands that they're being paid by. Do you see any trends here? Do you think this is something that's going to, influencer marketing is going to continue, or do you think it's a flash in the pan type thing?
I think that there's a concern among advertisers that influencer marketing is expensive, and also that the brand message is in a backseat, as was mentioned before, to the influencer's own message. Our business is about efficiency, working for movie studios. We're about how do I expose the right person, the right time, right device, right price to a message that's going to get them to transact. So a lot of our, the vast majority of our dollars are spent on paid media, with a small percentage being spent on influencer marketing. And then when we go and we look at the actual metrics, we find that it is often difficult to make an influencer strategy stack up in a media context versus other media solutions. So it's an interesting thing. It's not to say we shouldn't do it. I think there are certainly very valuable things about doing it, especially on certain types of movies. But I think it has a long way to go in terms of being measurable and stackable against other forms of advertising. We talk about Instagram here. Instagram advertising is actually a lot cheaper than paying an influencer to make a piece of Instagram content. And with movies, we got to get the message out quickly to a lot of people. So not everybody wants to sit and watch a longer than a few seconds. So you could do a 6-second ad on
But for those
Instagram as opposed to
millennials that we have in the room, where are millennials again? And are you guys following can you name an influencer that you are following on a regular basis? Okay, so anybody else? Are you following influencers on a regular basis? These are the people, right? These are the young ones that are supposed to be doing it.
And I just want to say, the notion of influencer marketing being something new, sure, it's new online and digital, but people have been using brand spokesmen forever.
I just said this yesterday. Radio was the first influencers. Those radio hosts in the 40s were influencers.
Right, and folks can go from being very brand safe to not so brand safe. We haven't seen OJ running through an airport in a long time, and we probably won't. So it's the same, there'll be new ones, and there'll always be something that the kids are like, I like that guy, and he likes that drink, or
But
whatever.
I thought there was
I'm gonna
something.
do that.
I thought there was something about influencers that because they were real people, because they were people we could relate to, because that they were celebrities. There was not a price we could put on how important that is.
Yeah, what's real in digital, really, or in celebrity? Kim K. I don't know. She's a celebrity. Is she real? She's a real person, but at the same time, she's using her influence to promote brands. And
well, I think it's become such an industry now that's kind of bastardized the original purpose of it, where
Correct,
it isn't authentic anymore and everyone knows it. So it's taken some of the
Amy, you
fluid.
want to
Right.
say something
Yeah,
about that?
I do. You know, I can speak for the family space because we were first to market in this space. And what we have found is that there are a lot of lonely people out there that sit there and watch these daily vlogs every day.
that's so depressing.
And I mean, but it's happening, right? It's happening. So if you realize that this community, these viewers are actually looking at these influencers like a part of their family. They trust them and their choices and what they do so much more than any commercial. They don't sit through those anymore. So that's huge. And brands understand that, and they trust us to select the right influencers with the right brand to bring an organic experience. That's what we do best. And when I've got, you know, Omaha Steaks wanting to be on a vegan's channel, it's not going to happen. I mean, you just have to pick the right people, but their viewers will listen because they trust their opinions. They really
I've
do.
seen two different car companies on traditional television, just of late, like this has been happening forever, that say, these are real people, not actors. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're
They're not
going to
real
have
people.
to say that, why don't we really find real people, and why don't we prove that they're real people and not make this look like a television commercial? You should just be doing this with influencers.
That's right.
If you want real people, right? Do you think you would be much more apt? This is a question I really want to know from this audience. Do you believe an influencer, a person who is not a celebrity? Now, let's not say not paid, because these influencers are getting paid, right?
But they are celebrities.
Big
though.
time.
Some of them are celebrities, some of them
Yeah,
are not.
and
I
so
think
what
a
is that- what
micro
is that line when you
influencer,
become, right.
a micro influencer with 250,000 is not the same as a guy with 47 million.
But someone with an audience of 250,000 people, which maybe is a celebrity in some circles.
Are you
More than my
going to
mom.
respond positively to an influencer? Are you going to respond positively to an unknown but paid influencer more than you would a television ad? Show of hands if yes, you are going to. Unknown to you. You see a real person on an ad, they're an influencer, they have 250,000, but they're doing this girl you just watched in Josh's example from Beauty Bar. Was she an influencer, Josh?
Yeah.
How kind of a following does
well,
she have?
I mean, there's
Wait, one
layers
at a
to
time.
this. Like HSN is a partner, and that's actually one of their people that they work
So
with
she's
a lot.
somebody on HSN.
Well, she works with them a lot, and their whole business, multi-billion-dollar business, is built on influencers, right? But
Right.
they go big, like they go Michael Bublé, and they go.
But so I'm talking about the non-big people. Those
But she's
people
not. She's not. I mean, she's I think 100,000 followers, so she's not
Okay,
huge.
so
but-
would
But
you
they're
respond
engaged.
more
They are
positively to
engaged,
somebody
yeah.
who
Engaged,
you
yeah.
don't know, who is not an actor, but they're getting paid for an advertisement? Would that have an effect on you to be more positive?
See, I think it's oversaturated, right? What happened is
Right.
it was a novelty at the beginning because those are real people that start their own thing, and people kind of like gravitated with that. And they talk about brand because they chose to talk about brand, so there was no money exchange, and that they had the really the trust of the audience. And then the brand got in, and there were like 2 or 3 or 4, 20, it was fine, but now everybody are a spokesperson, small, big, so they lost the credibility. No matter, yes, they do have the followers, but it's oversaturated as an industry, like anything else.
We have a comment up here.
Well, I actually think rather than it just what their following is, it's what their engagement is. 'Cause
That's
they
right.
can have massive followings with very low engagement.
Yeah.
That's right.
True.
That's the
Absolutely.
difference.
One that's
Absolutely.
100,000 followers, but their engagement is
People are coming back every day.
And that's what the
It's
brand.
way better.
And
yeah.
yeah, it's
And
an
that's what the brands are
arbitrary
asking
number.
for.
Yeah.
You know, what is big and what isn't. It's hard to even gauge.
When you use influencers, it's a slippery slope. Like ask Jello or whatever that police influencer jumping to the court and stuff. Those things, the companies take a big hit when you use those kind of
Sure.
influencers. On the other hand, you are using like a Gecko or a Affleck, Duck or something. They are probably the better influencers, and they become celebrities.
On their own.
That's
for sure.
true.
Let's move on to talk about wearables. How many people in this audience are using a wearable of any kind? Okay, Fitbit, Apple Watch, right? Okay. So are any of you guys seeing any advertising or experience any content on any of your Fitbit or any of your wearables? Not yet. Okay, so that question now is for Jonas. Is your company collecting data that's going to be useful for wearable technologies? Is something that, is there something that technology that your clients see as part of a solution? Right. How will it work for wearables?
No, we're not there yet. I mean, the issue with wearables and advertising is the device makers are still keeping that data close. There's a lot of issues around privacy, especially when you're having something on your wrist that might be taking your blood pressure and your heart rate and all that stuff. And so it's really not something we're delving into. We're still trying to, honestly, and I think everybody here is just trying to get to that, getting the right place and the right time without,
Anyone on the panel seen? I'm going to come to you, Jonas, because I asked a specific question. I mean, for a specific question for you, but for the panel, is anybody seeing any examples yet of anybody asking about advertising on wearables? Still too early.
It's just alerts and stuff like that. I mean, it's it's a delivery mechanism for the text alert or, from your app or something like that. But
because I feel like I read about personalization all the time, how this is all going to be personalized stuff for you. I have no idea why I do not see more things on whether it's a text or whether it's on instant messenger or whether it is an email or something that is more personalized for me based on the data that's been collected from this thing.
Because BGB is a healthcare communication, so we do a lot of stuff. So the privacy thing with your vitals, right, is different than your tracking because that's basically regulated. It's all FDI approved. So no, the brands or the devices are not allowed to transmit those vitals. So where you see a lot of the partners with the wearables, which I think it's going to be, I'll put my $20 on that, is your vitals and how partnerships are going to form. So there was a big thing that Samsung is coming up with a new watch, sports gear, and they start doing partnership with Speedo for the tracking your swimming stuff. So those type of partnership, right, allow, again, utility-based branded application or apps that allow better tracking and better storing without actually transmitting the data. Because that's just really, really where we're going into medical records, which is not public records, and it's you have to guard them in a different way.
But you think there's going to be advertising on wearables?
Yeah, because if you're looking at tattoos or that transmitting your vitals or watches.
How about the pharmaceutical companies?
Absolutely. So, or contact lenses that your lenses will actually give you a sign to go and buy the next.
Internet of Things. This is like the personalized Internet of Things, right?
It's safe to say if there's a screen, there will be advertising.
Yeah, very well said. Well said.
Sure.
So let's talk about. Oh yes, I'm sorry. We have two questions. Sorry. Let's go to this gentleman in the blue.
Has anybody done any executions in AR or VR?
I was just about to start that topic about AR and VR, so you're with me. We're on the same line. Let me go to his question in case it was about wearables.
Yeah, it was. It was a little counterpoint, actually. Are consumers ready to invite advertising in their lives in quite that intimate way? I see.
I'm not.
I don't know that we get to invite it, right? I think it just comes our way when.
Well, then I won't buy it.
Yeah.
But the question is what's advertising, right? So if your watch right now that you're wearing and one of the app that's tracking your, your walking distance or your running is a brand or is Adidas, right?
Okay, so that's different, yeah.
Right? But it's advertising.
Yeah, okay, so checking it as Foursquare.
In their packaging.
Sure.
It's going to be opt-in. If I download the Adidas app because there's some value added to me,
Absolutely.
that I understand. The idea that there's going to be push notifications on a wearable device that just puts arbitrary advertising in front of it. Even if the Adidas app is saying things like, hey, you should check out this other thing.
But if I'm going by a Starbucks and it's lunchtime and it says here's 15% off if you buy something now, I'm going to be happy to get that.
And we'll get there eventually.
But that's location.
We'll get there eventually.
But on a wearable, I don't want it on my phone. I want it on what I'm
wearable is
wearing.
like the phone, so that's location-based advertising and push versus wearables, which are more personal vitals. So it's not location-based because location-based it doesn't really matter if it's a watch or a phone. Wearables, for me at least, the way I see it, is a much more my blood pressure, right? So when my blood pressure is low, or I low on sugar, and my watch or my whatever give a sign, is it okay for you to go and there's a Hershey store next, go get a cat? Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's,
Yeah, but
there's
yeah,
a connection.
wearables are so much further than just your
Right.
health. I mean, that's like,
Of
you know
course.
what, Google Glass isn't around anymore, but what that could do was ridiculous. What this does, 1/16 of what this does is your health. The rest of what this device does and other wearables from Samsung like this are way beyond, like, you don't need your phone as much anymore, and I should be able to get as much the same kind of
Right.
advertising that I
And
would have
that's
gotten
the
on
goal.
mobile, but personalized.
Right, when they start decoupling your phone from your wearable device, you'll see much more things. And what folks are doing in wearables now, and where it's really starting to, so you mentioned Google Glass and other things, sorry, is in the enterprise space. So you see people, doctors using it now, because once again, you can get those alerts and things like that. People use it in warehouses, they use it in police work and other things like that. Firefighters use it to figure out where they're going. So as that catches on, it eventually will be that value add where you're walking down the street and you might have a contact lens or a pair of glasses, and you will get that, hey, there's a Starbucks down there and they're having a special. That'll happen.
The utility has to outweigh, you know,
Absolutely.
it's like what you said with the app, with the,
Right.
you know, airline app. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
like the wearable to me, like the Google Glass, that failed, you know, because I think if it's a contact, I think it's much more realistic
Sure.
than everybody wearing glasses all the time that
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to.
That's why you
Watch,
see
I
the
check
enterprise.
into I don't need my phone to check in when I go to when I'm in the boarding line.
Yeah.
I can do it with my watch. And
Right.
by the way, if it's geo-targeted, my watch should know I'm getting on a plane,
Mm-hmm.
and my watch should say, there are 4 places for you to buy a sandwich before you get on this plane in the airport that have, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and
think this is
Starbucks already tells
fantastic.
me when I'm close to a Starbucks.
Me too. Me too. It's gonna get much
It'll be on
better.
your phone
But that's-
eventually.
that's
And I don't
Yeah.
consider that a violation of my privacy.
Well,
that
it is
knows
if-
I'm
it
from
I opted in.
Starbucks.
But wait, it is if you didn't opt in.
Well, you'd have to
Right,
have
so
them
you
all,
have to
so-
opt in, and otherwise, if you'll start getting random, so yes, you're okay with the Starbucks, but there are 50 other stores that will start, you know, pinging you every time you walk in the street. So, you know what I mean? Like,
Get ad blockers.
You can get an ad
oh,
blocker.
no, but that's where the opt-in into, because it's different
But
than
but
it's a
guys,
different
like,
extent.
or I don't mean guys generic. I mean that generically.
Like people.
People. Everybody goes. I mean, how often when you're like, I'm going to download this, they check, I agree, terms of use, but you don't read the 3,000 pages of terms of use.
You have agreed.
Until it's abused, and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was signing up for this, and that's the unsubscribed version, right? But like, everybody by default now says, yep, I'm over 13. Yep, terms of use, and I move on.
Yep.
When he says opt in, he means actually the person knows they're opting in, right? Because it's about their frame of mind when the ad arrives. If it's an experience I have actively decided I'm accepting.
So you want to opt into every ad you see?
No, I'm talking about people specifically, right? Where like there's already a contract. I'm going to the website. There's gonna be content streamed down. That's gonna
Sure.
right? Okay. But that broke because the ads got really bad and awful, and people started installing ad blockers. If this becomes an open portal for advertisers to push content
Sure.
on here via some
Yeah.
tiny fine print terms of service, we're gonna get ad blockers on here too.
Yeah. The
Let's
good
go to
news
this
is that'll
gentleman
kill
in-
the battery, so you know folks
That's
aren't going to
true.
do that yet.
Let's go to this gentleman in the red. He had a comment.
But you talk about the terms of service and how people don't read those. And if it's a service like Facebook where, I mean, you could theoretically refuse the terms of service, but then you're missing out on the entire social platform.
That's what they
Right.
count on.
Yep.
User behavior, or is that a problem with the terms of service?
Terms of service, but who's
nowhere-
changing it?
It's a
They'll
little
just
bit
add
of
it.
both.
They'll
Force
add a
our
new
hand.
caveat to every issue, and that's why they're 10,000 pages.
But that's also why people take active steps to block ads, right? It's sort of like, okay, I've opted in all this stuff. I don't know I opted in. What a mess. I'm going to use the only tool I have in front of me to deal with it. Right?
Yeah, that's why the paradigm is shifting
No,
to.
Right.
the tool is to actually uninstall it, to not go to the site. That's the real. That's the option, because if you go into the site or you download the app, that's basically the price that you're paying. And if you don't like it, download or just don't go to the site, or don't uninstall the app. So
Right.
Let me make sure
Yeah,
we
because
have,
with ad blockers,
we
you
can
end
talk
up-
about this all day. Let me move on to AR and VR. Everyone here likes to talk about AR and VR. Sorry about that. So how many of you guys are have purchased A VR headset of some kind. How much you pay for that thing?
I don't know, probably $700.
Uh-huh, and you, sir?
200, it was smartphone-based VR.
And are you seeing any advertising experiences on there? No. So this is for Zach or Amy. Can you guys give us some examples from your clients or advertisers that you've seen execute VR with success, and what does advertising in VR look like for now and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's really cool about VR is the immersive brand experience. But the reality of that is it's really expensive and time-consuming. And so the kind of companies that do the immersive brand experience tend to be automotive companies or Star Wars or these kind of companies with massive discretionary marketing budgets. I think the halfway house we have now which is not very interesting to a lot of people who are actually in the VR space, is a 360 video. You know, there's 360 videos compatible with Facebook, for one thing. You don't need a VR headset to be able to look at it. It's obviously a lot more immersive if you are on a VR headset. So our client Universal used 360 video for 50 Shades Darker. And what we're finding is that, like many other sources of advertising, there are an emergent group, small group of ad networks and of ad exchanges that offer standard 360 experiences across headsets and also web and social.
And you don't need a fancy 360 video camera. On Facebook, when you go to, if you've downloaded the latest version of the app, if you go to make a post, you can scroll down and there's an example of 360 video. It's really 360 photo, but I'm telling, the average person doesn't even need to have a fancy camera to stand around in a circle and make what looks like a VR experience, right?
Yeah, so VR that scales right now for the vast majority of advertisers is 360 video rather than the immersive brand experience. I think the immersive brand experience will get bigger as the penetration of the headsets gets bigger, but until that time, I think the focus, at least for advertisers like ours, is going to be 360 video.
Amy, what do you think about VR and 360?
You know, in our space, it's not very common. We don't get a lot of requests for it. However, we are exploring this notion of having, families sort of come together for dinner. Maybe the grandparents are in Florida and the family's in Los Angeles, and so we are actually in the middle of experimenting with some content where we can sort of unite families, and brands want to be a part of that experience. We don't know how it's going to perform, and I can't discuss the technology with the company that we're partnering with on this project with, but if it works, I think you're going to get a lot of brands that will be intrigued by that and being part of that emotional experience.
Sir, did you have didn't get to ask your question about VR?
No, I think that was it. I was just wondering, was the Universal campaign successful? If not, why not? And what are they looking to do next?
Well, like many things, it's not the easiest thing to measure the success of that. There were some interesting engagement numbers. It was relatively inexpensive to execute, so I would say the client has deemed that to be a success. It certainly doesn't have as many metrics as we would have for a standard video ad, for example. But we certainly have engagement and things like that.
I think we need to separate VR than AR. Everybody's saying it in one thing, but it's completely different experiences, right? And completely different conversations. So VR is completely immersive. I think brand can start playing with it. It's more of a gaming simulation and stuff like that. Like watching a movie, but in a much better, settings. And then again, when you're looking at AR, which is augmented reality, is actually interacting in live data, which is completely connected to the wearables
or the phone,
or the phones. So when you insert data at a specific point, you already, I don't know if anybody saw the cars that already the speedometer is on the windshield versus that you don't need to look down. That's part of augmented reality where it's going. Think about a surgeon in an operating room looking down on a patient and the data is popping up, right?
But for advertising purposes, how are you guys, anybody on the panel, seeing advertising in AR that's working?
But it's exactly the way you use. So instead of like your watch, you're actually looking at the stores and it's giving you the 10% discount, right, when you're looking at it, or the name, or, so there's a way of not pushing it, but when you're actually looking at it, if the data will show up of what is the call to action, that's when brand and AR is becoming very, very interesting.
So what I hear on panels all the time about VR and or AR, which we want to make sure everybody understands are two totally different experiences. This is what they always say. VR is there in the future. Now we got two people here that have a headset of some kind. AR is happening now. AR is already happening. People are having AR experiences. How many people have had an augmented reality experience with their phone? Okay, many more, many more. Can you tell me an example of...
Pokemon.
What'd you say?
The Pokemon.
Oh, so Pokemon was an AR. Outside of Pokemon? Anyone? Okay. Can you tell me about an AR advertising experience that you've seen? Yes.
Snapchat has certain filters that are sponsored by certain brands.
I see. Okay.
We do that all the time.
And is that really AR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You layer another layer on reality, right? So that's the layer, and you can be playful as a game, and can be more utility based or information based.
Somebody else had another example in the back. Yes.
IKEA Places is simultaneously a useful app that lets you kind of measure your space and put furniture in there.
Right.
Of course, it's a giant advertisement.
Now that is fantastic. A Snapchat filter, I'm like,
Happy we could
whatever.
convince you.
But that, I think, is a fantastic example.
And that's where you start getting to what they call mixed reality, which is where you're actually layering that data onto onto a VR experience, but it's not true VR. It's somewhere meets in the middle.
In the last 5 minutes, remember to use your microphone, please. Everybody on the live stream wants to be able to hear you. The last 5 minutes, I always like to ask everybody, if you got $20 to bet on a big thing for the future, like what people should be focusing on, whether it's wearables or personalization or mixed reality, whatever, but you were going to put your $20 on ... Josh Lamb, can you give us the first one?
You know, my partner over there, he really influenced me yesterday, and we were talking about a bunch of these subjects. You know, an advertising focus, I think one of the elements is some of the old formats are just going to have to go away in the next couple of years, and the publishers are all realizing that. But my one I want to do...
Which one? I mean,
like pre-rolls and mid-roll, digitally speaking. But where I think things are going is it's the... creating those universal searches and being able to go across platforms and being able to compile your own content and how you want it, and figuring out that model of how do I get that Amazon show in this one place along with the Netflix
so a
show.
personalized content feed based on an algorithm that's based on what I like on multi-channels.
Yep, and that's kind of in combination with discovery. Those are the big challenges.
Zach, how about you? $20 on?
I guess I would say advanced TV, because that's one of the fastest growing things in our business. Is now you have a huge proliferation of cord cutters and cord nevers, and you have television companies using data for the first time, really, moving past the Nielsen rating. So I think what will eventually happen is that all television experiences will be programmatically delivered using advanced data. And that's going to have an enormous seismic shift on the entire world.
So in some way along the lines with what Josh is saying, but you're saying in the traditional TV model, it will be more based on addressability. But both of you are talking about personalization in some sense.
Right.
Amy, how about you? $20 on?
Messaging platforms.
Messaging, sure, right, yeah, for sure. I've already started to see it on Instant Message.
Yep.
Yeah. Yahav, $20 on?
I'll split my 10 and 10 between wearables and augmented reality. I think those specifically where I'm coming from, which is the healthcare, advertising, and pharmaceutical, and we see, the protection of data and stuff like that. It's going to be fascinating what we will be able to do, what the brand's going to do it, what the advertising going to do with it, and how the user's going to accept it and use it. I think there's so much value, to people that's suffering from different diseases to use that, and we should go there.
Jonas, $20 on?
I would agree. I think AR, in terms of allowing folks to interact with the brand, and get immersed in it, but stay in the real world, and then at the same time it allows advertisers to deliver the right message at that right time. The example, walking past a Starbucks or what have you.
I was at a advanced television conference, and there was a very interesting panel about when driverless cars happen, how it's going to be an enormous opportunity for AR.
Absolutely.
Because brands will be able to fully surround somebody who has nothing else to do except look out the window.
Yep.
So I thought, interesting, never thought of that. But
Yeah,
but
and it could
those
get
two
crazy
things together
'cause you
are
have
happening
messages
for
popping
what
up.
for 2020 AR driverless cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting thought.
You guys have been an incredible audience. Please give a big round of applause to our panel. Thank you.